Well, hello again. Welcome back to the Alan Hudson Podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. As you can see, we've got the great Charlie Cooke with us today. It's a sad day for us Chelsea fans and everyone connected with Chelsea Football Club because we've learnt of the sad passing of Bobby Tambling at the age of 84, a true legend at Stamford Bridge. And we'd like to pay our own little tribute to him today. Before we go on to the tribute for Bobby, let's just remind everyone to like, follow and subscribe if you can. It would be a great help to us if you would. But in the meantime, we'll say hello to Charlie. Charlie, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for joining us today. You're in, tell us where you are in the States and what time it is over there.
It's just past 10 o'clock here in the US in California, down near where US are going to be training. In fact, they're located down here in Southern California, probably an hour or so away from, in Irvine, an hour or so away from SoFi Stadium, and maybe an hour's flight to Seattle. So US are well positioned down here with a comfortable travel schedule. So that's me down in Southern California, 10 o'clock. Bright and breezy.
Well, it's great to have you on as usual, Charlie. Chelsea fans out there always love to see you on our podcast. So you're a very welcome guest. Thanks for joining us. Now we've got to get on to Bobby. Sad passing of Bobby Tambling. A true. I mean, the word legend is bandied around a lot, but he's a true Chelsea legend, isn't he, Alan?
Yeah, I went to the bridge, Charlie. I started when Fulham turned me down. My father walked me into the bridge. I was 13. So I mean, we remember the Tuesday and Thursday training. Did you come up? Did you have a couple of nights there after behind the goal and that? You know, for the kids. And Bobby was there, and I remember he became one of my favourites. I know that obviously this is before you came, wasn't it? But I think it was one of those he started. Tommy Docherty started it all. I think it was one of those things that he done, which he passed on to George Graham as well, because George did the thing which Tommy did with the injuries. When George went to Tottenham, they had a big injury list. And George thought to himself, he thought back to Chelsea, what would Tommy Docherty do? He got a lot of ideas of Tommy. And he put on the board injuries, 10 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and 7 o'clock at night. Well, it cleared the treatment room out. He had a full pair of players. It worked, you know. But I think Tommy done that on the Tuesday and Thursday nights, so he knew where the players were, you know. It was that kind of, and he kind of done the same thing in Manchester United with a physio when he was misbehaving with his wife, and he was having him doing treatment, you know. But that's another story. But that's how I met Bobby when I first met Bobby as a kid, and obviously, you kind of, I wasn't a Chelsea supporter, I was a Fulham supporter, but I knew then who I liked and who I didn't like. When I was very fortunate when I got in the first team after the year after you came, just after 18 months after you came. And I remember knowing the lads really well. And I remember Tony Hateley coming and going. I remember I didn't like Tony Hateley. He told me one day, spoke to me as if I was just the boot boy, and I asked me to go and get him a pint of milk over the road. And he's still waiting for it, Charlie. And then the day I do remember you, I was in, I don't know if I've said it before on the show, but I was cleaning the boots and cleaning the dressing room because I was out injured. And there was all this commotion outside in the tunnel and all this. And next thing you know, I've gone out onto the greyhound track, and you've got the ball and you're doing, you know, what you do so well. And it was like a circus. It really was, you know. And I watched you, and I thought, I remember coming home and saying to my dad, I think I've got to work a bit harder on my technique on my skill. I said begin, and then you started playing the Emily News roll back and all that, and that's how it all started. But Bobby kind of drifted into the background, but he was such, while we got a couple of minutes on Bob, he was such a wonderful person. Lovely. I said to my mate Johnny Westwood today, he loved him. I said he was like one of the old boys in the Well's End, one of your dads, so unassuming, no ego. Frank Lampard's pretty much the same, who overtook his scoring record. Frank's pretty much the same, but Bobby's even more laid back than that. He was a great, great fella. I'm going on a little bit because you can't remember too much about it.
No, to tell you the truth, when I came, you remember, I came in 66 and Ozzy was just establishing himself. He had suddenly come on the scene, and I had known about Bobby before I came down to Chelsea, but I didn't have a lot of knowledge about the team. I just had this impression of this young team, this young go-getting team, and it kind of excited me. The one thing I did realize right away when I saw Bobby anytime in training or evening games, and I've got to say that during my period there in the early years, Bobby, I think, was injured for quite a few periods, extended periods, because he didn't feature in the first team for many games. And but the one thing I noticed immediately, he had a hammer of a left foot, an absolute hammer. He could crack the ball with his right foot, but my God, his left foot was just an absolute hammer. And I can remember him scoring goals in practice and think, bloody hell, that was, and there was no big celebration and no fanciness about him. He got the job done, was a powerful guy himself. He was well built, sturdy, powerful guy, could take all the knocks in the box. And what was he? He was a 5'9", 5'10". He wasn't a huge guy, but my God, he was powerful. And when he got on his left peg, I've seen him crash some fantastic goals in that period. So it was always very unfortunate, I think. As far as I can remember back, there was a lot of kind of injury issues for him during that kind of late 70s period, early 70s, late 60s period. But a fantastic goal scorer. And the one thing I want to say also is, it wasn't one of these guys that scored goals just in easy games where you're racking up a few scores and he gets a couple of easy shots. I've seen him pull games out of the frying pan, with some fantastic shots that you didn't give him a much of a chance at it, and yet you got them in, and they were crackers. No, I tell you who he reminds me of, or who reminds me of Bobby, is the way Messi strikes the ball with his left foot. I mean, Messi, most times when he strikes the ball with his left foot, it goes where he wants it to go. Sometimes he's bending it, sometimes he's doing things with it. But the other times when he's actually putting power into it, it immediately reminds me of Bobby Tambling. That's the way he used to strike the ball, like an absolute rocket. So I'm very sad. I'm only hearing this morning. I wake up this morning, I had no idea of his passing, and I'm just hearing about it. So very sad news for me.
It is. It's just the terrible. I joke about it, but I just to try and keep cheerful, put on a brave face. But I'd say to my mates, I was the youngest in the team by quite a bit, apart from Hutch maybe. And that's probably why everyone's left in front of me. Now it's just you and I, and probably one left of that team.
Well, one of the things you said there earlier about Bobby being such a great guy, I can't imagine anybody having any off periods with Bobby. He was one of these guys who was a gentleman,
Manages
sometimes be rare in the game.
unlike you, Sponge and me, he was a manager's dream. But I must add to what you just said about the thing with Messi. I thought you was going to say Beckham but he had left foot and he did it. But one thing people must remember, how heavy were the balls then?
Yes, exactly.
You know,
Absolutely. Yes.
I remember the free kick he swerved around the wall. I think it was one against Leeds, one against Sheffield Wednesday, both in the cup with his left foot top corner. And, you know, if it happened today, they go mad on Sky TV. But they were heavy balls and heavy pitches, you know, and big lads, you know, lads in the wall.
I remember seeing a couple of highlight reels of Bobby's goals. I forget the occasion, but there was a reel went up, and I was astonished. I could remember some of the goals. I was present for some playing in the team for some of the goals, but they were absolutely scorchers. I couldn't believe the power that went into them. And Bobby's, I won't say foolish modesty, but he wasn't a modest guy. He wasn't one of these who ran around telling the fans, look at my number, look at my name, look how great I am. Just wasn't that kind of guy, you know.
No, he done what Roy Keane would say. That's what he's paid for, you know. That's what he's, you know. Roy Keane, that's what he would say. But
hey, I would think that's what Bobby would probably say to you. That's what I'm paid for. Yeah, exactly.
Would, you know, and Kay would be the same. Kay would say, well, that's what I'm here for. You know, that some of the in 1969, 70, I think. Before he went to the World Cup, Peter Bonetti, that was the best year he ever had. You know, he saved, you know, I remember one of my first games at Old Trafford, I was behind Bobby Charlton when he hit one from about 30 yards, and the Stretford end had gone up, and I thought, oh, we're 1-0 down. And Catty not come out of the crowd, and I thought he's going to tip it over the bar, and he caught it. And that's when goalkeepers caught the thing, you know. And that's what I remember most about Kate. And he'd come out with big centre halves and big centre forwards all clashing, and he'd come out and he'd just pick it off their head, wouldn't he? He was only slight.
Well, you just mentioned somebody there, Bobby Charlton, and I would have mentioned Charlton in the same breath as Bobby, but the difference for me was that he was doing it inside the box and outside the box. Whatever he was a danger point. He's a flash point inside the box. And whenever he got anywhere close to his left foot, there was danger. And
I think the difference was, Chaz, in them days. I think Bobby Charlton, when he hit me, they would like to go for England against Portugal, you know, that he'd arrow it, you know, he'd go straight. But Bobby would always have a bit of a curl on his. He'd always and bend them, and it was terrific at that. One of the first you've ever seen. As I say, in today's game, it's easy to do in today's game with the balls. You know, anyone can. Can't they really? You know, I can only imagine it. For you, it'd be double easy, but it would be easy.
I'm just thinking that Bobby Charlton, I can always remember Bobby and his long driven shots. They're beautiful things to watch. But Bobby was much more of he was a mixture of all of that. He can do the long shots, and he can do the gritty stuff in the middle of the box, edge of the 6-yard box, get there, get himself on it, strong hit, powerful headers, you know, absolutely cranking in left foot shots. Always a danger. So that's a different animal, I think, to Bobby Charlton.
Absolutely.
Animal to Messi, but the same feeling when he cranked a ball with his left foot. I get that same feeling for Messi.
Yeah. Well,
Charlie, do you remember one of your first games for Chelsea? The famous 6-2 win at Aston Villa, when Bobby scored 5 of the 6 goals and Johnny Boyle got the other one.
I remember that, and I remember thinking at the time, well, good, thank you for that. I wasn't thinking much about it. Then I realised afterwards, what a fantastic accomplishment, you know. To tell you the truth, I thought you were going to. I was hoping. I thought you were going to say, "Oh, you remember your first game against
West Ham?"
West Ham. Yeah. When I scored from the edge of the box with my left foot. And I thought, what?
Was that
Bobby could do that without even thinking, you know.
That was Tuesday, Wednesday night.
Excuse me?
I was there that night. I think it was a midweek game, wasn't it?
No, was it not the opening game of the season, Saturday?
It was. It was the opening game of the season. Yeah.
I remember it being a very hot afternoon, you know, and it was a kind of scrappy game. and I got a goal. I got the winning goal. So I thought I should mention that because it happens so seldom in my career.
Well, we're going off piste a bit, talking about your debut, Charlie,
Yes,
and your very rare goal with your left foot. But that was the game. I think Hurst, Peters, and Bobby Moore, were celebrated before that game, weren't they? Because it was the first game after England won World Cup.
Well, I remember that first game. We were all sitting in the dressing room, first game of the season, ready to go. And a guy came in with a clipboard under his hand, spoke to Tommy Dock. I'll give Tommy Dock the credit. The guy was saying, could they make a guard of honor for the West Ham players? And quite rightly, they just won the World Cup. Who by all means, give them the credit. And you hope maybe he give them the credit and give them the applause going on field, and maybe they think too much of themselves, whatever way it works. But we did that. Tommy Dock didn't. He obliged. We stood down and clapped him onto the field, and so we were kind of double happy at the end that we had managed to get a nice result.
And going back to that Villa game, the 6-2, what are your memories of that? Do you remember anything about that game apart from Bobby scoring 5 goals?
No, I'm not saying we were dominating the game, but we were definitely on the ascendancy. And Bobby was a kind of. It was a perfect kind of point of your attack. The ball was going to him, and he was dangerous every time he was touching the ball. Whatever he was doing, he was great at laying it off, doing all the stuff that the forwards have to do. But when it came to any half chances, he was dynamite, absolutely dynamite.
With the World Cup coming up, we sent our love to Bobby. He got how many caps, Tony?
He won 3 England caps and scored 1 goal.
There
you go. So they probably dropped him after he scored. That's what England usually do. But
Al, just put. I mean, Bobby had the record for Chelsea goals for 46 years. I think it was 202 goals. I mean, just put in perspective what a tally of goals that is.
Well, I think Jimmy Greaves would have got more than that if he'd have stayed at Chelsea. He'd have probably got 500. But that was an amazing feat. And you say that, probably Frank Lampard from midfield to score. I mean, I know Charlie will definitely agree with this one because he say that himself and myself never scored enough goals. But that's the way we played. And I remember Hutch turning around one day and he talked about me, and someone asked him about me. And he said, Alan Hudson, if he scored more goals, he'd probably been one of the best midfield players in the world. But I know if I'd have scored more goals, he would have bollocked me. And he said, hey, get it into me, get it, him and Ozzy, you know what they're like, And we made, how many goals they scored that season, him and Ozzy, mate, without Charlie and myself doing what we done, mainly Charlie, the way he did it. But, they were you can't believe today in the modern game that they just play with one up when you think about them two up front, and Greaves and Gilzine and Chivers and Ron Davis and all them, they were at, how the game's changed. And I still believe in the 2 up. I really do. I said it in the Euros, the last under Southgate, when Harry Kane was really having a bad time. He should have brought Ollie Watkins on to play with Harry Kane to spark him up and, to play off him and that. And they won the Euros. They'd have beat Italy easy if he'd have done it that way. But anyway, we moved on to the World Cup now.
Well, yeah, with just under a week to go before the World Cup starts, and
Charlie's hosting it.
Sorry,
Charlie's hosting the World Cup.
Charlie's nation is hosting the World Cup, or one of the 3 nations hosting the World Cup. What are your early thoughts about the tournament coming up, Charlie?
Well, it's funny. I was reading just yesterday, and I was shocked that FIFA had made any changes in the rules. But I see they've made a couple of changes that might, this is how many teams? 42 teams, extra teams going into the playoffs and so on and so forth. I can see a lot of kind of crazy stuff happening. you know, this thing about you've got to you can't cover your mouth if you're speaking to an opponent or to an official, and that's a red card. You know, red cards, yellow cards become very important in a tournament like this, where you're going to be playing in very hot weather. You need everybody you can get. Red cards, yellow cards, injuries are going to be super important. And I just think that kind of shocked me that FIFA had made a couple of kind of changes that could. I'll give you an example. They've said that when a player is going off after an injury, they've got to go off the field after an injury, and the ref they won't come back on for 1 minute. Now, can you imagine if a team's playing for the 1 minute where they have to lose a guy because he had been injured, and the team scores in that period? Can you imagine the kerfuffle there's going to be about those kind of things? And I'm all for it. I like that idea. I like those changes. But I can see how...
Say you're already playing with 10 men and you get one injured and he goes off for a minute. Now you're down to 9. It's a crazy rule.
Yeah, but Alan, it seems to me that the games, the players and the teams and the coaches have brought it on themselves. All this stuff. I'll give you a classic example. People approaching the referee and putting their hands on referees, putting their hands on their shoulders like they're friends and speaking to them. I think as soon as he touches that referee, then get him off the field. Get them off the field and let them know he ain't going to handle that kind of stuff. He ain't going to listen to all the stupid excuses they give.
Yeah, I agree. It's like doing it in the street to a copper, isn't it? You'll get nicked straight away if you handle a copper. You know, and that's basically what they're doing.
You know? And there's quite a few, shall we say, captains who think they've got the privilege that they can put their hands on the referees. They're captains. They should be showing the discipline to all the rest of their team. And they go up to the referee and they put their hands on his shoulders and starts talking to him.
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I said, I think it might have been on the show the other week. I was telling some boys the other day, I said, I remember becoming Stoke captain right at the end of my career, and both the captains would go in and see the linesmen and referees, and they would tell you what they expect and everything. Well, I think they should do it the other way around. They should go into the dressing room and they should say, look, if anyone starts handling, anyone swears at me or anyone handles me, that's a yellow card. And even to the extent of a red, you know, you can't be. It's ridiculous touching referees. I don't know why people want to do it. You know, it's you know, you're not your friends. You don't want them to be your friends. You know, it's well, they're the enemy anyway. But I think they should come in before the game and lay that rule down that this ain't going to happen. You're not going to come up. You're not going to wave an imaginary yellow card or red card. Otherwise, you'll go off. If I send someone off and you go like that, you'll go off with him.
Another rule change, and you may or may not agree, was the VAR. They're saying that for goalkeepers wasting time, you know, taking too much time to get the goal kick and so on, they'll change that to a corner for the opponents. If the referee gives us 5 seconds to get it done and it's not done, corner to the opponents. Now, what if say you get 2 or 3 occasions when the opponents score in these occasions, because a lot of clubs, teams will be planning free kicks and corner kicks, you know, getting all the big guys up there. So it's quite possible that quite a few goals could be scored from set plays. And if it's set plays as a result of that VAR decision, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
I'm just the point I was just making. I was kind of surprised when I read. I didn't know, but they may have been made several weeks ago. I don't know, but I wasn't aware of it until I read them just the last couple of days, and saying that these are changes in the game rules that are going to be applied in the World Cup as almost like a tester. But it's not a test; it's the change of the rules.
Yeah, it's all come. It all originated from goal line technology, and it's they put everything else on top of it.
Well, I think. Another thing to add to that, Alan, is guys who trot off slowly when they're getting subbed, and so their team's in front, so they take 20 minutes to walk off the field. Now they're saying they're getting 10 seconds, and if they don't, that's going to be a breach too, you know. So
I'm a bit concerned that you two are agreeing on far too many subjects today. It's very unlike you.
We ain't got
I was worrying about myself, Tony.
But can I, as the non-professional here, can I play devil's advocate on all these changes that FIFA are bringing in? I mean, to me, they're making too many changes. They're putting too much onus on referees. I mean, surely referees are under enough pressure as it is without bringing in all these rules and trying to sanitize the game. They're trying to make everything perfect, aren't they?
Well, basically, that you've hit it in one. We said years ago, everybody agreed that the refereeing of football match is hard enough as it was before VAR. You know, then they brought back the pass back rule and now this new one where you goal kicks where they pass it across the 6-yard box and all that. This is just crazy. It's the new rules.
Was that announced a while ago? Was that naive?
That was about 2 years ago. That's been happening about 2 years, Charlie. But you know,
these are new changes for this World Cup.
Well, I won't be. Well, don't tell us about it because it'd be a nice surprise, wouldn't it? Because I like it when they do that because I can go in the kitchen and pour myself another drink.
Let me play devil's advocate to you and Tony here. Just recently, there was a whole hullabaloo about the VAR, and you're giving it a bit of stick right now. And I'm saying all these people they're moaning about VAR this, VAR that. They don't say one thing about all the correct decisions that were made as a result of VAR that had huge influences on some games and on the league, perhaps. So
maybe, Charlie. I think they're the minority. What you're picking up, you've started something here, Tony. That's the minority.
I thought you two were agreeing far too much.
Well,
no, exactly. No, I'm saying, hey, if you want the game, it's like stats, Tony, Alan. You know, on the stats thing, he gives me shit about stats. No, I'm saying stats is only confirming all the stuff you've kind of absorbed and you think, but you didn't really put any numbers to it. Just you don't want to be sort of that diffuse kind of way about everything. And the stats just tell you that's exactly what you were thinking. And this is the result of it. And if you take that to its end conclusion, it won't be the wonderful, beautiful game if you play it a certain way. It'll be an ugly game playing a certain way. And the stats all kind of help to confirm this to us when we don't want to admit it sometimes. I think the VAR is something similar to that, where people don't want to admit it. But I think sometimes it takes far too long to come to a conclusion with the VAR. And I think either they say, give VAR a 2-minute or 3-minute max, and then the game goes on, whatever they decide in VAR will not be counted because the ref will then restart the game with his original decision. So maybe if they put some kind of time limit on it, maybe it starts the game up. But to say that VAR gave unfair decisions, I think that's nonsensical.
Well, the problem is who's giving the decisions with their faceless people sitting miles away watching a screen. But
they're watching a screen with half a dozen cameras in slow motion, taking every angle you can get.
Yeah,
what could be better?
Well, it shouldn't take that long, should it? But let's get on.
I'm saying, by all means.
Let's get on to your. It'd be interesting of your. I wrote down today. I went through the whole Premier League today, looking at the players that are actually going to go to the World Cup, and I can't pick many out that are going to sway it. And I've kind of the thing that's caught my eye more than anything is Portugal. I think they have got 4 or 5 of the best players in this year's Premier League. The best player in the league this season has been the Manchester United fella, Bruno. if he didn't cry like a little kid and sulk and everything else, he would be magnificent. He's been superb, and he got Manchester United where they got. They could thank their lucky stars they've had him in the team, and I think he's gonna have a big say in the World Cup. And they got 4 or 5 real good players, 6, 7, outstanding. They're 10 to 1 to win it.
Well, funny you should say that, Alan, because I had some notions myself about the teams that would be the favourites and would be my favourites too. I mean, I'd love to include all those African nation countries and so on and so forth. All these countries we don't know enough about, but we certainly see teams signing a lot of the players from there. So they've got to be producing some darn good players. But I think in the whole scheme of things, I keep coming back to mostly European and Latin American teams to fancy for it. And for all the ones that I was looking for, suddenly Portugal just hit me like a rock, the players they had in there. It was quite astonishing that they took the top names they got playing for them.
Well, I think the reason I've come across them, my friends are back France and Spain, but I've looked at 6 or 7 of their players, and they've had great seasons. They've had great seasons, the Portuguese players. And that's even without, I don't know how Ronaldo's still playing. I don't get that one. But let's go to England. The most mystifying thing about the England squad is not taking the young kid from Crystal Palace, Wharton, the midfield player. I think he's been so outstanding with Crystal Palace this year. He's been such a big player, and he's put the likes of the lad that went back to Brentford, the England captain,
Jordan Henderson.
Now, I think there's an argument there that people are going to. I don't care about experience. It doesn't matter. You know, Pele, how old was Pele when he won his World Cup?
What player are you talking about here?
There's a kid that plays for Crystal Palace, Charlie. He's a midfield player, and he's excellent.
Hey, wait a minute. This is where we're going to wire into this about midfield players. Does he score goals?
He scores the odd one. Why?
Oh, the odd one. Hey, listen. Here's the team. Here's the team that you're going to gag when I say this, because I couldn't believe I did it myself. But when I looked at all the teams, and my God, there's well-known world-class players playing for everybody. So every team has got its star names. The one team that struck me forcibly was Brazil. I'll tell you why, Alan. You look at that squad and the people they've got named both in the midfield and up front, they've got goals galore if things go well for them.
If they can win.
Well, I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. Let me see if I can.
I'm surprised they didn't take the Chelsea fella, Del Pedro. That astounded me. I thought he'd be a big player for them in the World Cup. I
thought they were trying to get Delap to become a Brazilian.
No, don't laugh. Oi, don't laugh. You're getting fair.
Delap should stay, baby. He should stay.
Charlie.
He is the future.
You go from one extreme to the other, don't you? You talk about the brilliant Brazilians, and you go, you know.
Hey, listen. Brazilian, and this was in their official roster. They listed 6 midfielders. Listen to these guys, and how many goals have they got between them? Guimarães, Casemiro, Santos, who plays with Botafogo, Fabinho with Al Ittihad, Paqueta, who's with Flamengo, and Rapinha at Barcelona. And that's their midfield. They've got goals galore in there, never mind up front.
Yeah, but they're playing in dodgy old countries, and it's Southern League, isn't it?
What I'm saying is they've got a chance against anybody, no matter what they scored in the game. they've got a chance of doing things. I think up front, for example, they've got Neymar, Endrick, Martinelli, Cunha, Vicinius Jr. My God. I look at that Brazilian team and I wouldn't want to be playing them tomorrow, I tell you.
Well, there's a small matter of your native country in their group, Charlie.
I was just going to, the other person I was going to say, it would have been probably the player of the year. When they get all this wrong, every time they give the golden boot or the other thing, what they give, Ballon d'Or or whatever it is, I always give it to all the top players. But when I see someone, we had Eddie Gray on the show 9 months ago, 6 months, 9 months. And I was saying about his young kid, is it his grandson? His son, this kid played for Tottenham, and every time I see Tottenham play, when he played, he was absolutely the best player on the field. And Scotland haven't included him in the squad. I can't believe it.
We're talking Archie Gray.
Archie Gray, it has been absolutely tremendous. Like Wharton at Palace, he's been played out of position.
Yeah, when you talk about Scotland here, naturally being Scottish, I would hope they'd do great in it, but they're in Brazil's group, so they've got something on their plate. Having said that, I was just looking at their roster, and they had 6 out of 26 players, 6 players playing in the Scottish League, and so they've got people from all over the world. And I think that kind of evening up of the leagues and so on, where all the countries claim their players from, it was supposed to even out the World Cup. I don't think it has done. The same old teams keep winning it. The same traditional teams, the same European powerhouses still keep winning it. So I'm kind of disappointed. I don't think I see any of us, any smaller teams, if you want to call them smaller teams, less recognized teams winning it. I just don't see outsiders having an awful lot of chance.
I'm going to give you the surprise packet. My son fancies these very strong. He's going to have a bet. And I see Japan beat England at Wembley the other week.
Oh, funny you should say that.
Do we agree on this?
That's been my outsiders.
They're my outsider. Look, 66-1, Charlie. 66-1, Japan.
Well, hey, they're in mine, I'll tell you.
The only problem they got, they've just missing Mitoma. Mitoma's been ruled unfit, isn't he? I think the kid from Brighton.
Yeah.
But have you seen the group Japan are in? Very tough group. They're playing. They've got the Holland. They've got Sweden and Tunisia are no mugs either. That's a tough group.
Well, you can back them with me, Tony. You can have a side bet. If you want to bet them 3 with me, you can. I can become the bookmaker on the show.
What's your view, Charlie? Charlie, what's your view?
I like Japan. I've always liked the way they play. I've always liked the way that they've presented themselves in the World Cups whenever they played, and always think they're a dark horse. Always a dark horse. Yeah. And I had them in here. I had them as a dark horse along with Bosnia. Let me see. Mine were my teams were the obvious ones: Spain, France, England, Portugal, Brazil, Argentina, and Belgium, Japan, and Bosnia were my 3 outsiders. Plus, and I had Germany in as outsiders because nobody seemed to be fancying Germany. And I've not seen that much of Germany this year, so I put them out there as outsiders. But Belgium, Germany, Japan, and Bosnia are mine. And I put in Bosnia, not because they're getting old and it's not a sympathy one. I think their experience could see them go a long way in this tournament.
I mean, you'd be the expert on this, Charlie, living in the States as you do and having lived there for so many years. is the climate going to favour the South Americans over the Europeans, do you think?
Well, I think the best way to judge that, Tony, or assess it, is to look back at the World Cup Club Championships last year. And do you remember these games? They were played in blistering hot temperatures. The game was slowed right down. And many of the teams, I don't care what they say all about it, they talk about team systems, 4-2-1-3, 3-2-1-5, 4-2-4, well, all these number things, as long as it adds up to 11, it's okay as far as I'm concerned. All I'm saying is that almost all of them played, they call it what, a low block? They parked a bloody bus. They parked the bus. Then they start giving out all these fancy names, a low block, a 3-1-2-5, a 3-2-3-1, whatever. I think, you got to be kidding me. You want me to swallow that?
Well, I know I'm going back a long, long time, 66. But if you look at England in 66 when they won it, they were a better team in Mexico. Their performance in Mexico in the blinding heat of Mexico were far better than 66.
You ended up with wingless wonders. Wingless wonders that affected the game dramatically for the next 5-10 years. My God, wingless wonders, give me a break.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, we had probably one of the best wingers in the world in 1966. We had Peter Thompson at Liverpool. There was none better than him. It was unbelievable. He wouldn't play wingers, and then he ended up playing Alan Ball to do all the donkey work down the right side. But no.
I was just going to say that whole wingless wonders led to many fantastically talented players for the next 10 years playing for Brazil, playing for Argentina, any of the great countries in the world. They were still being forced to run back and play like England used to play. I mean, doing all the donkey work.
It's funny, Charlie. You won't remember this because you've been on holiday with Sponge, I think, but. But after Mexico, when we come back from Mexico, when the Mexico was over, Brazil had won it, and I remember Sexton had us sat down at Mitcham, and he showed us the Brazilians, and they had Jairzinho on the right and Rivellino on the left, and that's the reason he said we got to get down the flanks and get the crosses in, early crosses and this and that. And that is why he went and bought Keith Weller. If you remember, he bought Keith Weller that year. And he ended up playing down the right for us, and he was doing exactly what he was talking about. Not like Jairzinho, but Keith Weller was a good player for us. I mean, another mystery. I found out something the other day, which I can't even mention on air about him, what the reason he left about him and the captain. But he got rid of the wrong one. Keith Weller should have stayed with us. I thought he was a great asset, and that was the only reason he bought him, because he come back Mexico and he's looked around the league who's got pace down the right and gets slings, crosses in, and he was good here, even at Leicester with Frank Worthington played with him, and so that's what happened to the wingless wonders. So they started bringing the wingers back slowly, didn't they?
Well, I mean, bringing the wingers back, I mean, they were forced. Even the most talented players in the world were ended up like cart horses, having to go back and slog it out there and do double duty in defence. I just felt that England win in 1966 was a kind of it opened up a bad, dark period for the game, and winning a World Cup's difficult. A very difficult thing to do in itself. But look at Brazil. I was at that Brazil game when they won in 1970. I was at that game, the final game, and I remember almost crying at the kind of beauty of it. The last goal that what's his name scored?
Carlos Alberto.
Yeah, Carlos Alberto. Pelé just controlled the ball. outside the box, lovely control, a little bit of pressure, and he just rolled the ball absolutely perfectly. Just rolling, a rolling ball. It wasn't a big pass or a quick pass or a clever pass or whatever. Just a rolling ball. And he came in, Carlos Alberto came in, just crashed it right into the bottom of the net. The keeper never saw it. But that was from just the edge of the box. And I thought, what a fantastic finish to this whole competition on that game. But my point would be, sorry?
No, you carry on.
But my point about the difficulty of the World Cup is 8 years later, when they played the World Cup, they were knocked out in the second round or something. Didn't even get through Brazil. So it's a tough thing when you can develop these fantastic players, to keep them on song and not let all these kind of negative tactical BS ruin your game, as it were.
What you've just said about that Brazil 1970 team, Charlie, prompts me to ask both of you the question: was that the greatest international team you've ever seen?
It was for me for the World Cup. I thought it was the best World Cup I've ever seen, and I thought they would have. I think Bobby Moore put the best performance I've ever seen by a defender against Brazil that day when they lost 1-0. His performance that's when Pele went over and hugged him. Bobby was incredible that night, but that was the best World Cup, leading up to it. And Charlie's mentioned the goal, and it was a great goal as well for a player that was never mentioned. Remember Clodoaldo? He done a couple of tricks over on the left-hand side, didn't he? They were playing 1-2s, and then they had gone, and then the switch, as Charlie said, is knocked it into the big man Pele, and that was it. But all the damage was done over the other side. They've got about 20 passes in, but a little triangles. They were 3-1 up, okay, and they were just showing the world how to play football, really.
Well, you're saying that's the best World Cup performance you've seen, and the one that I saw, the one that moved me most in all my life, wasn't a World Cup. It was the cup final, the European Cup final in 1969-70, was it? 1969 at Hampden Park. There was 130,000 people there. A lot of them were Scottish. I was up there by myself. I had counseled all my buddies to go, and they couldn't go. They're all selling ice cream and trucks and all that kind of stuff. Couldn't afford to go, weren't interested, didn't want to pay the price of the ticket. And I went up by myself to Glasgow, stood there for the whole game. And I remember at the end of the game, it was fantastic. Both Eintracht and Real were fantastic. It was a great game to watch, and the kind of atmosphere was electric all night long. And I thought the greatest thing about all that night for me was standing in the terraces at the end. And if there was 130,000 there must have been 100,000 still in the terraces applauding. And so I think, if I remember correctly, I could be proved wrong, but as memory serves me, I remember we're all applauding, basically to force the teams to come back out and take a lap of honor. And I remember Eintracht came out. I think they came around and everybody applauded them. Then out came Real, and my God, the place erupted. But for me, that was a time, the first time ever. I think first time ever I've seen Scottish fans admit that maybe we're beaten by a better team. Maybe they were a bit better than what we had.
Yeah, but there's one thing the great change, probably the greatest change in football ever, is you see them two teams play, probably apart from Puskas, who was Hungarian, they were all Spanish, Santa Maria and Di Stefano and people like that. And they were all probably all German. You don't get that today. These, as I say, you look through these teams around the world, and the amount of players. I mean, like, look at Wenger when he was in charge of Arsenal. Not an Englishman in the team, when, it was unbelievable. One game there was, I think there was, well, there weren't. They just weren't one English player in the team. So that told you something about what was going on in the game.
Well, but the reason I mentioned that European Cup game, and it's kind of different to World Cup, I get it. But I was mentioning it because of the quality of the game itself. I thought the game itself was a kind of entertainment spectacle. 7-4 ended up, I think, 7-4, 7-3. The final result.
The names of the players in the Real Madrid, in the
Di
Real Madrid
Stefano and Puskas both get hat tricks.
Unbelievable.
It's fantastic. So I'm saying that the entertainment quality of it was kind of almost similar to me. Was that 1970 World Cup when Brazil won it? And it was the same kind of feeling I got at it. Same thing, and I just hope what I'm dreading is going to happen here, Alan, is that we're going to get the same thing as happened to the Club World Cup, where games were slowed down to a slow trot. It was blistering hot. I get it. I understand it. It was blistering hot, and teams just played defense. And it wasn't just a kind of defense. It was total park the bus, edge of the box, just stand there and boot it out, and don't even go and try and do anything upfield. It was too hot.
Let's be fair, Charlie. I'm sorry to say to all you Chelsea supporters, when they played PSG down here, they come out and they had the world champions on their shirts, and PSG players, I know what us players would have thought in Chelsea. We come out and we're playing against Real Madrid and they got world champions. That's got to wind the other team up, because they've even got the thing at the bridge, the big sign, the world champions. Well, that weren't the world champions. I mean, Auckland were in it, weren't they? Didn't
I think so, yeah.
Beat Auckland 9-0 or something.
Alan, but irrespective of what you may have thought of that, basically the best teams in the world were represented there, the best leagues in the world, and that was in the same conditions they're going to be playing in this summer. So that was last year, just a year ago.
Yeah,
the things were slowed down to, it was. I thought it was a poor spectacle to watch. Wasn't great.
I think but that's why I brought up 1970, because it wasn't like that in that heat.
Exactly, yeah.
No.
Similar to 1970, 69, the 50. So it was 59-60. What am I saying? 59-60 for the Real Madrid. But that was 7-4. Attacking play from both teams. Fantastic goals. Fantastic emotional experience, all for the fans and for the players. It was an emotional kind of eruption, and I thought it really got to the heart of Scottish people. All the fans that came and supported Eintracht, all the fans that came and supported Real. I think it was an emotional night for everybody concerned with that kind of event, and that's what you want. That's what you want the World Cup to be.
Well, you do. You do.
And here's one thing, one reason that I think, so I can justify. I just said, I picked Brazil, and that was it. Well, there was reasons I picked Brazil. I look at who's their manager again?
Ancelotti.
Yeah, Ancelotti. Experience. He knows how to handle even the biggest crazy people. He can handle these kind of people. And look at the experience he's got in the team. All these guys, you go through the team, it's got world-class players all the way through. And the one guy that I think will probably anchor them would be the captain of PSG. Let me get the whole thing here.
Are you referring to Marquinhos?
Yeah. Marquinhos, and then he's got Gabriel next to him. But you think of these guys, now, they've been through the fire. They know what it's like. But the guys, all the midfielders, I looked at them, Guimarães, Casemiro, Santos at Botafogo. I think they played last year in USA.
Club World Cup, yeah.
Fabinho, Al Ittihad. Paqueta, Flamenco, he's been through the fires. Rapinha, he's been through many fires. And I look at these guys and I think they know what it's all about, and they've got potential to produce world-class soccer. That's why I want with all my heart.
I just hope we've got on so well tonight. I just hope they come across Portugal. I really do, because they got, on my piece of paper, as many good players as what Brazil has. I think that Brazil.
Excuse me, who's this he's talking about, Tony? I didn't understand the word they said.
Portugal. The two midfield players played for PSG the other night. The little two fellas.
Neves and Vitinha.
Vitinha and Neves.
Yeah, they're all playing for Portugal. Portugal's no.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And they got the other.
They're
and the fella at Man City as well. Just Fernando Silva, he'll be playing.
My immediate thought there was, what a fantastically talented team, and are they going to be able to handle the personalities?
If they won 2 European Champions Leagues on the trot, they won't worry about a World Cup. That'd be easy peasy, mate.
Can I put to you a question about Portugal and their manager Roberto Martinez? He had a very strong. I mean, he had the so-called golden generation of Belgian footballers under his control,
and never done nothing.
And they didn't cross the line. What do you think of Martinez as a manager of Portugal? Is he capable of taking them all away?
I don't think that team need a. I remember Alan Ball saying to me when I went to Arsenal don't need a manager, and I don't think teams like Portugal need Brazil. They don't need a manager. These players, you see PSG. I mean, he might be a great manager. He's won 2 Champions Leagues. He was a great player himself. But once they start playing, mate, the manager becomes, and I think if you ask 99% of footballers from our era and maybe today, they don't take any notice of team talks, and they don't take any notice of what comes from the bench. And I can hold my hand up saying I was top of the list there, because I never listened to nobody. And he certainly didn't.
Well, I just think it's going to be a player-led thing at Portugal anyway. You look at the personalities in there. They've got Ronaldo, who's kind of going to do his thing. But the guys they've got, Bernardo Silva, Vitinha, Felix. I mean, these guys are so experienced. They've been in the toughest of environments, toughest games.
And they can
do. I'm just going to brag again, Alan. They're part of my.
You can't brag yet.
Outsiders.
Place yet. You can't start bragging. What are you bragging for?
Well, because I think I surprised myself in picking them out. That's why I surprised myself. I thought I'd be looking at all the Egyptian team, the AFCON Cup and all that kind of stuff. I was looking for all these teams, and they're certainly producing a lot of players, no question. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they've produced the teams yet that are going to upset the established teams in the World Cup.
Charlie, can I ask you to bounce off what Alan just said about managers, and he believes they have a limited impact on the players? I mean, is that something you would agree with?
Well, it's probably something Alan won't agree with, but I think they've got to be good kind of gatekeepers in the sense that they've got to know what they're doing at the World Cup. I think injuries, travel, and rotation of players and so on is going to be huge this tournament. I think it's especially huge when you see the last year's Club World Cup, and you saw the heat and how it just diminished so many players, so many teams. The energy just wasn't there the last half hour of the game. And so I think managers have just got to be much more aware of players, getting tired, and rotating players and having them.
Seeing as Englishmen are going to dominate our viewership for this podcast, we've got to touch on England. What are England's chances under Thomas Tuchel?
Well, I think the again, I don't think Tuchel's done himself a favour leaving out Cole Palmer. I think I always would like to think I've got somebody on the bench that can change games. And, you can bring on guys who are workmanlike and do the job on the field. But when you're going to your bench, you're usually looking for some kind of inspiration. And I think Cole Palmer was certainly that if he didn't feel that he was good enough to be starting him. So I felt that was an omission. Having said that, also, I noticed in the midfield that it was listed Declan Rice, Anderson, Meno, Bellingham, Ease, and Rodgers. But the one that surprised me was Jordan Henderson. And it kind of struck me that he wouldn't deserve it on, say, goal scored from midfield, of course, but you wouldn't think it'd be there for work rate. Everybody's got good work rate. But I think from experience and having a sensible head on your shoulders in midfield, perhaps when you need it, Jordan Henderson probably does deserve just being there. Is that kind of old head. When you look at the whole team, there's a lot of guys that can, I think, need to be handled properly. And we'll see.
Alan, what's your view on England's chances?
The same as always. I think it got to wait another few years yet. But I was very disappointed. I said when Tuchel got the job, he was the right man for the job. Matt Letizia told me off and said he wanted an Englishman. And there's plenty of English managers good enough to take it. I think the way he started off, he's just gone back to no different from the England before. It doesn't look any different. They don't play any different. They always win their friendlies leading up to the World Cups. They're the best team in the world in friendlies, England. But when it comes to the crunch, I don't like the way he left 2 or 3. I agree with Charlie. I think you've got to take Palmer, even if he's out of form at this moment, take him over and have a look at him. I know managers, I bring my old boss into it again. He'd take him away and look after him and say, look, you're playing, don't worry about it. And, because he's good enough. But you don't become a bad player.
It's been great getting your views on the World Cup, Charlie and Alan, of course. We've got to wrap up by remembering the great Bobby Tambling. A final words from both of you on a Chelsea legend.
All I've got to say is I'll raise my glass to Bob. But the great Robert Tambling. Great man, great fella. As lovely a person you'll ever meet. And deserved all his success. As I said earlier on, he was a manager. He was Tommy Docherty knew he was a manager's dream, And then after that, a few managers' nightmares come into the side.
I would agree with all these things you were saying there about Bobby is just a guy, is a person, lovely guy.
He was. It really was.
Fantastic teammate. And the one thing that always struck me was as I was saying about, you think of other players who are similar to him, like the Bobby Charltons or the Messis with their left foot and so on. But the fact he did it in the box and outside the box, all around the box, and laying on for other players and so on, it was almost typified his personality. He was a nice guy, very unselfish.
Charlie, I think to finish, you and I, and Tommy, and Ozzy, to think how so lucky we've lost them over the last 3 or 4 years. We've lost Tommy. No nicer person, Tommy Boyd. John Dempsey, there was no nicer man than John Dempsey. Peter Houseman went a long time ago. What a great lad he was. We had Lou Hinton. They were diamonds in our squad. Absolute diamonds. Lovely people. And I know because I used to clean their boots and admired them so much and ended up playing with them. And Marvin, if he believed in himself, he could have been another Bobby Moore. What he could have done in the game. But, we were lucky to have 4 or 5 lads Dempsey was just like Bobby Tambling, unassuming, come in, have, it was a joy to go into training every day with these fellas. And I think that's what we miss most. And that's what I miss more than anything. A lot of professional players will say that they miss the everyday participation, but we had 4 or 5 lads like that. Even Catty was a lovely fella, I remember Catty giving me his bag when his 1966 bag when he come back from the World Cup in 1967, 68. I think when I was cleaning the boots one day, he said, "Young Hud, said take that for doing a good job." Yeah, really. He gave me his England bag, and I should have kept it. If I'd have given it a Hutch, he'd have put it on eBay.
Well,
but no, we're very fortunate that we played with a great bunch of lads. We're talking today about all these teams over Europe. They play all different nationalities in the team and all that. We were British. You and Sponge from Dundee and Gateshead and Eddie from Stirling, and it was very loud. I don't care what anyone says. Dave Sexton never knew what was going to happen when he threw a team together, because when I come in the side, I don't think we won for about 6 games, and then all of a sudden the FA Cup came along, and the FA Cup come along. I think it started some kind of, and nobody knew when we won the cup that we finished 3rd in the league behind Leeds and Everton, and we weren't even, looking at the league game. We were concentrating on. I remember playing at QPR in the 6th round and looking at going out on Loftus Road, and Marsh and all them were there, and they were trying to get. Venners was playing, Barry Bridges, and I remember looking at the Wembley Stadium just across the road, and I thought that's where we're going, and that was our feeling all the way through that FA Cup run, and we were very fortunate, and it's nice. I think it's nice to mention that when someone like Bobby's gone, yesterday, and he was a great big part of it because he was part of the Doherty Sexton thing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, I just think him holding the record, the goal scoring record for so many years, just a credit to him, and a great kind of tribute to what he did for the club and for the game at that time.